mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about episode 3, part 3 of the HBO limited series We Own This City. So we're now midway through this season, and there's a lot that I really like about this show. But I am starting to get a little bit restless just because I feel like the forward progression of the storyline and kind of, I think, the inevitable convergence of the multiple storylines is taking a little bit longer to germinate than I'd like, in favor of repeated examples of the ways in which the Baltimore police suck. And I'm kind of nitpicking at this point, but I am noticing that it's like, I'm watching something, I'm like, all right, I get it. We've seen this a few times, but that's something that it's starting to wear on me a little bit. I'd like to see us, reach this point, which I hope we have at the end of episode 3, where we can essentially go, all right, you guys understand how corrupt the Baltimore Police Department is probably. Let's now work on having these stories converge and letting you know how these officers ended up where they ended up and how all this ends up playing out ultimately, as far as whether or not they end up in jail, if so, how long, how they get caught specifically, that kind of stuff. But we do get some progression, though, as it pertains to the storylines, which we do every week. So I'm definitely not sitting here trying to say that we're pedaling in place, because we're not. We are getting progression, but, we'd just like to see a little bit more of that. But we are getting some progression here. We have now connected Wayne and Sean Suiter, which I was beginning to wonder how Sean Suiter, and I am still wondering how whatever it is that he's doing, how that's going to tie in with everything else, because it seems very separate from everything else. But I'm thinking that, I'm not thinking that. Now I realize that Sean has had some sort of professional relationship with Wayne, so I'm wondering if maybe like a Sean Suiter testimony is going to bring Wayne down, something to that effect. But we have connected Wayne and Sean. We've also now connected Wayne and Herschel. So Herschel gets transferred to the Gun Trace Task Force at the beginning of the episode. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but I want to give some examples of some of the things that I feel like the show is kind of like repeatedly hitting us with, that I feel like they could stop, just because it seems like anytime I criticize a show, everybody gets all up in arms, right? So I don't want to give this criticism without giving some supporting evidence. So first thing I wrote down is cops stealing money from crime scenes or gaining access to someone's money under false pretenses to steal it. Over and over and over, we've gotten this. Actually, we still don't even know what was in what did Wayne find in episode 1, but I'm confident we'll get there. I'm not concerned with that. But this idea of they pick our pockets when they arrest us. They manufacture these reasons to do these raids, and then when they go in there, they might turn over, guns or drugs that they seize, but not the money. Like the whole dynamic of how they line their own pockets and manipulate the law in order to be able to do so. I get it. We've done that a lot. In this episode 3, Wayne again gets more shit for being broke. He has this scene where he goes up to Herschel and a few other guys. Herschel's drinking, and he, for one, let me just be clear with this. Everybody there was broke to me, because you don't have a barbecue, right? Especially if it's only how many guys are there? Maybe 6, where you charge people to drink the liquor. We don't really do that. In general, me and my homies, we all bring our own shit anyway. But if we do, we're glad to share stuff. We share our liquor, we share our cigars. When I say share our cigars, I don't mean I take my cigar out and I pass it. But I mean I got a lot of cigars, full transparency. If somebody in my cigar group, because I run a cigar group on Facebook, if somebody in my cigar group is like, yo, where you get that? I would love to try that. It's nothing for me to just be like, yo, I got a whole bunch of them. I can give you one. Not a big deal. And I spend $8 to $12 on average for cigars. Not a big deal for me to give one away. I got so many. So for them to kind of like trash Wayne for being broke, but at the same time, they try to charge him to drink and to eat. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Sounds like the pot calling the kettle black to me. But aside from that, Wayne gets more shit about being broke. We had the scene with the crabs. I think that was last week. And now we have this scene where, you know, he doesn't want to pay to drink. He reaches into like his sock money, which is like a poor person's savings account. He reaches into his sock to start to pay for the money. He gets crap for not knowing what Patron is. Like, they really just cooked this guy, no pun intended, at this barbecue. And again, I get it. Like, this is what's driving him to steal. He's self-conscious about how much money he makes and his inability to provide for his family, about his coworkers, his peers cooking him over not having enough money, over not being aware of some of the finer things in life. If you could call Patron one of the finer things, I wouldn't, but hey. But yeah, like, we get it now. Like, I get it. Like, I see why he steals. Like, you don't have to keep... I don't need another example next week of Wayne getting made fun of for not having money, unless it results in him just, like, beating the shit out of somebody. Then I'll take it. But otherwise, I don't need it. Also, Nicole's pattern has been the same every week. It's just kind of just interview after interview, and she interviews 3 or 4 people every week, and they all say the same thing. So, like, this week she interviews 3 more people, and they all tell her essentially the same thing that everyone else does. You know, you get a Baltimore resident who describes the style of policing and how corrupt and unfair it is. We got that last week with the rapper. I forget his name, but the rapper. You get someone who admits that the police have issues, but also goes, I understand though. Like, I get it. Like, oh no, I'm not saying they're doing everything right, but I get it. I understand. You know, you get that. This week it was the police commissioner. And then you get somebody who just flat out doesn't agree that they're doing anything wrong in the first place. And I think that was Herschel last week. Was that last week when she interviewed Herschel? I think so. Herschel last week. And then my man Herc from The Wire this week, who plays he plays the head of the union. And he's very much not willing to go as far as Herschel, but he very much is saying, like, you know, I understand why they do what they do. Like, it's not that big a deal to me. And this idea of like, oh, they can't properly police anymore, so I understand why they don't do it. And then she's like, well, so they can't police if they can't beat people? It's like, you get this argument every week. And I feel like Nicole's story now needs some progression. I don't need 3 more interviews telling me the same information again. So I'm gonna stop. That's really all I had as far as like something that I didn't like. And again, I readily admit that is me being a little bit nitpicky, and that is something that's not it's not damaging my enjoyment of the show. But it is something where I am starting to get a little bit restless. Like, all right, can we stop giving the same examples over and over? Like I'm ready to hear about what's actually happening in these timelines. And I also think, you know, I criticized last week a little bit. And again, it wasn't really a criticism. It was kind of like, I think it would be better if they didn't jump around different timelines so much, especially with like the same person. But, you know, they didn't do that as much this week. Actually, I don't know if they did it at all this week. Speaking of which, whatever happened to McDougal and Hawk? Like, we're done with those two? Anyway, one of the stuff that I liked. So, there's multiple instances in this episode that were infuriating, and they're supposed to be. This is not a criticism. We're meant to be irritated by these things, where it looks like a cop is about to actually get in trouble for something they did, and then we found the person's just fucking with them. Like, Herschel gets reassigned, and you know they're telling him like, "Yo, you got to get transferred so the heat dies down. Like, we're sorry, man. Like, but we got to do something." And he's like tripping out. And then he finds out he's going to the gun trace task force and is celebrating. And like the idea that a guy like Herschel essentially gets rewarded for doing what he does, and the police get the opportunity to paint it as a punishment, like the corruption is off the charts when it comes to that kind of thing. Like, No, yeah, he's been reassigned. And you think it's? I bet they'll have a press conference where they finger wag at the camera like Bad Herschel. He's gonna get reassigned. You're not supposed to do blah 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 blah. And little do we know as the public that he's getting essentially rewarded, getting sent somewhere he wants to go. Ridiculous. And then it happens with Wayne as well. Wayne thinks he's getting into trouble over the situation where they drove by these two guys sitting on a porch. Wayne tells the guys to go in the house, which, again, you telling somebody who's sitting on their porch to go in the house, like, the abuse of power is off the charts with the police. Now, off the charts. But they don't go in, and Wayne just decides he's going to beat the shit out of this guy for no reason. And it looks like he's going to get in trouble for it, but in reality, his sergeant is just like, the only reason you're even in here is because you messed up the paperwork. You could have done a better job of this. And he gives him an opportunity to do it over. And what I liked here in this scene was that the sergeant doesn't tell him what to put in the report, but he guides him there. And he's like, I didn't know about this broken bottle until your partner told me. And Wayne's like, yeah, he threw it. I didn't think about it, but he did throw it at me. And I used to be an athlete if I had moved out the way. So he was already being steered into the narrative of feeling like he was in danger to then justify his unnecessary abuse. And then you couple that with the fact that everyone here is kind of colluding against this guy who was the victim just so they can all pat each other on the back. It's fucking gross. And we're supposed to be pissed off by that. And yeah, it worked. I was pissed off by that. It's kind of like what I don't want to interject too much of my personal opinions into these reviews, but it makes me think about how when we look at the level of police corruption and abuse that happens today, they always go, oh, it's only a few bad apples. It's only a few bad apples. To me, you only have police who are doing bad shit and police who are complicit in other police doing bad shit, which means that you don't have any good apples. You only have bad apples and people who are okay with bad apples. You don't have anyone who's willing to, how many times do you see a cop get up on TV and go like, yeah, that one guy who worked with me shot that one black guy and he shouldn't have done it. Like, you almost never see this condemnation coming from within the police department. So like the way just to see this is just confirmation of the fact that they will do anything to not just justify what they do, but to get away with it at the expense of innocent people. Like it's gross. I also like how this show and this episode as well allows you to put things together on your own. Like I was just mentioning with the kind of like reading between the lines with this conversation between Wayne and the sergeant. Like Wayne didn't tell him to do that. He just kind of ran with it. And this episode kind of leans into how cops lie about justifiable causes for what they do. And that doesn't really bother me as much as it continues to amaze me how easily they do it. And how it makes me think about these high profile cases nowadays where, you might have a cop that's like, yeah, I shot so-and-so because blah, 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 blah. And they give this reason to justify it. It makes me wonder, like, how many times was that cop lying? How many times might they have gotten cosigns from other people, a partner or somebody else who was there who said, yeah, that is what happened when it wasn't what happened. And it's like, if it wasn't for cell phone videos, would anything be different? It's barely different with cell phone videos, but again, I'm trying not to go off. But like I said, I like how the show does allow you to put things together. I think I have another example of that in here, but I'll see when I get to it. I also liked how we came full circle with the Aller story. Like we started at the beginning with this mention of him stealing this $10,000, right? And then we see it play out, how they set up this guy, Woodha, to get into his house to look for the money. And they find guns, they dip out. Allers gets the money. He admits to his lawyer that he kept it all for himself. I liked when I think this is another kind of almost isn't it reading between the lines because it was pretty obvious the look, but he tells Jamel and Gondo that he didn't take any money from the house, and they both look at each other like like, yeah, we know that look. I wonder if that's going to play a part in his downfall as well. Because you're not going to have two black guys who help you set up another black guy and for the purpose of getting money, and then you don't come out the money, and you say you never found any. Yeah, no, it's not going to work out good for him. this is the other thing that I liked about reading between the lines. I like the way they showed Wayne pressuring Sean Suiter to not just take the money, but to be quiet about it. So they do this raid at this car wash, same idea, right? Which, like I said, we've been hammering home this idea of doing these raids for these purposes. I'm sorry, for some reason, like when I get to really talking a lot, it's like the saliva just builds up, and I'm just like constantly trying to fight it in my mouth. There's something that hasn't happened until recently. I don't know why this is happening, but anyway, they go to this car wash, and same idea. They're doing this raid that they have the ability to do, but they're also looking for money and whatnot to keep from themselves. And Wayne finds the money. Well, technically Sean finds the money, and Wayne takes it. And I love how Wayne never really pressured him to take the money or to keep quiet about it. He just praised his police work, talked about how great a job they did, how they were going to get medals and all that. Then he plays to his sympathies. Like, oh, I can't feed my kid off of medals. Any father, anyone who's, police don't make a lot of money. Anyone who's not upper, lower, that's not a thing, but like lower middle class, something like that. Maybe you're making, especially in 2007 or whenever that was, you're making, I don't know, we'll say 40 grand maybe. Any father in that situation can relate to the idea of not being able to feed your family off of accolades. So he plays to his ego, and he plays to his sympathies. And I loved that. That was so smart. And I love that the show did that without telling you, like, this is Wayne manipulating Sean. He's totally manipulating him. And I loved how they again let me arrive at that conclusion rather than making it obvious. So I really like that, and I'm wondering how that's going to play out. Let's see, what else did I have here? Gondo's phone is tapped in this episode, and the FBI hears him getting direction from a woman on the phone about a drug dealer a buyer that they've pulled over. Like, okay, here's where you can find his gun. He always got it when he come through. He always got this gun. And the FBI hears this. They arrest this guy, the Gondo and his crew, arrest this guy, and they also hear him kind of relaying over the phone during his phone call, his one phone call that he gets, about how they also flat out took money out of his pocket, which we see Jamel do. And I'm starting to wonder if now, like, this is the part that I've been clamoring for a little bit more of, the progression into how they get caught. And this is the start of it, I think. The FBI tapping Gondo's phone, seeing them with their own two eyes, the one guy taking money out of this guy's pocket, hearing them collaborate with whoever this woman is on how to essentially rob this guy. And it's interesting to see where this is going to go. I'm thinking this is the start of how they get caught, and I'm looking forward to that. So one of Nicole's interviews, I think, was pretty interesting. Well, it was interesting in that it featured a couple of people that I found to be worth talking about. So she interviews this guy named Tariq Toure, who's played by an actor, but I looked him up, and he is a real activist. And he's the guy that does the same thing that I was saying that one of Nicole's interviews always does, that they talk about how unfair and corrupt the police are, from the victim perspective, right? But they said there was like a panel on the stage, and there was a guy up there named D. Watkins. And D. Watkins, I believe, if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments, but I believe D. Watkins is one of the writers on this show, and he was brought in because he actually lived this life. Like, he actually was in the streets. He had run-ins with the cops that are showcased on this show. And he turned his life around or whatever, but they brought him in to kind of like advise, and I think to help write on the show. So that was cool that he was up there on the stage. Again, I'm assuming that was that guy, but I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. And then lastly, the last thing I want to mention real quick is that as Sean continued to investigate his murder, he starts working with the guy that played Dookie on The Wire as well. I'm loving The Wire, people. HBO constantly giving these guys jobs. They arrest this guy, Tay, who is the boyfriend of someone named Ebony. They got Dookie's character found shell casings on the scene of like a shots fired call, but there was no victim. and it was around the corner from the murder. And it turns out there was a connection between the two bullets, and they were able to take Tay, and they're gonna search his house, presumably at the start of the next episode. So again, we'll see where this goes. I'm guessing they might find something in Tay's house that will connect to what's going on with the police. We'll see, but I do think we're moving in that direction where we're going to start connecting some of these stories, and there's going to be less hammering home of the same point. But I can say you can expect me to come on here and be a little bit pissed if we get 3 more Nicole interviews with the same kind of person each time. And more examples of the cops being dirty, like, oh man, here they go again. The eye roll is gonna get a little bit more dramatic every episode. You have to see that, but I do think we're heading in the right direction. I'm loving some of the acting on this show. I think Jamie Hector is great. He plays Sean Suiter. I think even the guys that play Gondo and Jamel are great too. Like, I hate both of those guys, especially Jamel. And he does a great job of making me hate him. Very hittable face on that guy. If for whatever reason, guy who plays Jamel, you happen to watch this, I don't want no smoke, I'm just saying you got a hittable face, dog. Maybe you think I got one too. Doesn't matter. So that's all I got for now. And I will see you guys next week for episode 4. Peace.